Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ICG's Digital Academy webinar series. This is Lucy Wernick, the ICG Manager. In today's webinar, you'll be hearing from Katie Hollier of WeSeeThrough, who creates inspirational consumer stories from video. WeSeeThrough is an end-to-end agency that also helps freelancers and agencies with their consumer video challenges. They demonstrate the needs, barriers, innovation opportunities, and show what consumers love about a brand. They facilitate video capture using Gopros and fixed wearable cameras when mobile is not enough. They are experts at analyzing and summarizing large amounts of video footage, including translation, transcription, summaries, and tagging. And their platform helps you illustrate the insight stories you find, store footage to remine, and give the client access. This morning, Katie is going to share with us some tips on making the most of your video footage. Katie has said that she is happy to take questions at the end, so please type them into the question box as usual as we go through, and we'll read them out during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Don't forget that WeSeeThrough are kindly offering ICG members £300 worth of tagging to get you started and 50% off your first 3 months. Contact me, that's Lucy, at manager@theicg.co.uk for more information. We're really grateful to Indiefield for sponsoring this webinar. Indiefield's mission is to deliver great market research fieldwork so that you can use it to deliver everything else. They provide fieldwork services using every method available, including their exclusive market research panel. They also use behavioral recruitment and targeted sampling backed by Experian data. Their highly valued network of community-based market research recruiters and interviewers covers the whole of the UK and gives access to market research participants that cannot be found through online panels, social networks, and list providers. Before I hand over to Katie, here are the next webinars for you to note in your diaries. All are open for registration now via the ICG website. So now handing over to Katie Hollier.
Hello, can I just check that someone can hear me before I start and go on?
We can hear you.
Okay, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we can hear you.
And you can see the screen?
We can, thank you.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to take you through a really quick overview of video ethnography and behavioral methodology that you can try and hopefully look at some of the ways that it will work for your business. So just a quick overview of myself and WeSeeThrough. My background has often been quite client-based, so I started my career at Procter & Gamble, and I've also worked for O2 for 8 years. I'm not a market research specialist. I'm more on the sales and marketing side, and I worked for a few startups, and WeSeeThrough really appealed to me because it's a coming together of psychology, which I love, technology, using technology, and then creating the right results to grow sales. So the fundamental, obviously, driver behind what we do is growing the organizations that we work for. It's hard kind of to remember a few years ago. Now we've all got smartphones and so much technology, but how even 4 or 5 years ago, it was quite difficult to get cameras, videos, etc. And now that range is growing all the time, and it's becoming much, much easier to capture what people actually do in the moment. So that's what we're all about at WeSeeThrough. Just see if I can move us along a page. There we go. So what we aim to do, and what I'm going to cover in this presentation, is the 3 parts to our proposition. Usually we run, or often we run end-to-end for brands. But what we also offer for freelancers and agencies is the ability to take any one of the three parts of our proposition and use it as you want to. So the first bit is capture. The second bit is I'll be talking about is around the analysis of large amounts of video. And the third bit is presenting that story, which is often your own domains yourself, but how to get the best results from that. So in terms of capture, I guess it is perfectly possible to ask customers to capture video with their own mobiles. There are some reasons where you may not want to do that. The couple that we come across most often is one, if you want people to have their hands free whilst they're showing what they actually do. Secondly, in different parts of the world, people may not have smartphones. And thirdly, once they've captured those things, they're also on their own devices, and you can't necessarily get them to delete them. Whilst if it was kind of personal information, for instance, we were looking at women in Africa talking about their personal hygiene habits, I would hate any of them to leave that on their phone and for their families to find it, etc. So it was much safer to send them out a camera which they could record it on and send back to us. So we use a lot of GoPros and we send those out all over the world. And we send them out with a task guide, and people fill in and people complete the tasks, and they either upload the video, but where the Wi-Fi and broadband is not good enough, which is in many, many places, they just send the GoPro straight back to us, and then we have the footage. The second area we work with is fixed camera. Fixed camera used to involve us going into a home and putting the cameras in place, usually 3 to 4 in the living area, to capture people's lives over time. But more and more it's moved to people actually being able to install that themselves with a set of instructions and perhaps a Zoom call from us. So we give them a little extra incentive to do that, and that's worked really well. It doesn't affect our recruitment criteria, so we never recruit based on whether they can do that or not, but often people are able to do that, and that again takes a lot of cost out of the services. So the first part of our kind of what we do is in a way a bit like a field work operation, and we have the right devices, we have the 24/7 support for consumers, and we can manage them out, manage them in, and manage the footage back up to be uploaded. And the kind of things, the kind of studies that we end up doing, or that I've seen that work the best, we get a lot of studies in the home care categories. So we get cleaning, which is very relevant at the moment. We may get laundry. We've also get baking, cooking, things like mayonnaise. What types of mayonnaise do people like when they add them to their dishes? And then we also have studies around media as well. So how often do people use their devices? Where do they use them? What do they watch? How do things work, etc. So please feel free to ask questions in your own area, but I just wanted to give you a feel for some of the studies that we do. So that's a brief run through of the capture side of the business. I now wanted to move on to the analysis and how to help with that. So I think so WeSeeThrough has a platform, and you can see a picture of it here. We put all the videos up. We allow you to organize them, and then you can tag them. And if I've got time, I'll show you the videos at the end, or the platform at the end. You can tag the videos. You can transcribe and translate them. I know the question will come, is it manual or automated? It's still manual at the moment, although the automated software is getting much, much better. So I expect to see that coming through in the next 12 months or so. So you can separate out small clips of your videos, and I think that we use it, the platform, for 3 main reasons. The first one is allowing clients to access their own video. So clients want to know where your video is stored and whether I can access it. They rarely do, but it's nice for them to see it's there. It's nice for them to be able to show you, for you to be able to show them it's there, and it's stored for the next 2 years, which is the average length that we store for a video project, and people can come back and remine it. And I've been talking about this for a long time, but we're really quite excitingly just beginning to see clients come back and say, right, for our hand dishwash study 18 months ago, we want to remine it from this angle because we've now got a new product or a new ingredient, and we want to understand when the clients were talking about whether it's bacteria or getting through grease, whatever the particular issue was. So for me, really exciting, because I think that's the biggest value that you can offer your clients, or part of the biggest value that you can offer your clients is actually to be able to have this video footage and go back through and remine it. As I say, you can have it transcribed and translated, which is useful, but you can also tag it. So you might tag it by fabric conditioner, by brand, by action. And actually, we have a lot of success as well with interviews with tagging. So you might tag it when they talk about mental health or education or how it's impacting their home, whatever it is. And then you can pull up all those moments. When we do a GoPro study, when people wear a device to record a task for us, usually they do about 10 minutes of footage, 10 to 20 minutes of footage overall. It's still an awful lot of video to get through, but you can kind of make a list of all the points that are made and put that into a show reel. Where I think WeSeeThrough can really help is where you have fixed cameras in the home. You will get an enormous amount of video through, and we do what we call a level 1 analysis, which enables you to get through. So with our project for cereal in America with Kellogg's, we filmed in 36 families for 5 days without turning the cameras off. And we then helped them to get the 357 moments out, which were the serial moments in inverted commas. So that's a first level analysis. And then as a freelancer or a market researcher, you may want to do your own analysis off the back of that. So that is the analysis. And then finally, I just thought it'd be good to talk about some of the case studies and creating the storylines. So we find that clients in general want the results in a 2 to 3 minute, very concise video, which lands their argument. And we tend to use work with a video agency to do that. We create a storyline, which is then created into the video. So it's in a way, it's like creating a mini film, which says, this was the challenge, this is the objective, these are the consumers, this is what we saw they did, and this is the conclusion. And that is, as I say, where we've got a lot of expertise in kind of pulling that together now and pulling all those drafts together. Some of our little case studies are, the first one is with Johnson & Johnson in retail. So we asked shoppers to wear a GoPro on their on a chest strap, and the product itself has now launched. It's a chewable mouthwash, and they wanted to, rather than ask people in a focus group, they wanted to get people to walk around store and think, at what point would I expect to see this in store, not just in the kind of normal mouthwash toothpaste area. So it was a fantastic study. We got loads of innovation opportunities and loads of ideas from consumers over what, you know, where they might see it. So when they're buying a bottle of wine and it's 6 o'clock in the evening and they're thinking, yes, that's what I'd like to do, you know, that should freshen up my mouth before I go out effectively. So the question people always ask of this is, how does that work with in-store and permissions? And in this case, it was in the UK. And what we said to people was, if you feel uncomfortable or you're challenged, please take it off. But if you're not, then go ahead. And all our shoppers were comfortable to do it and weren't asked any questions during that study. Second one here was GoPros. As I said earlier, the great thing about cameras is you can get them out to all areas of the world. So we do quite a lot of studies in Egypt, China, and this was one in West Africa where women talked about their laundry process and what they were actually doing and what their pain points and barriers to using new products were. Kellogg's, which I've mentioned, was a fascinating study. Kellogg's were looking for innovation in the sweet cereal sector, and they wanted to understand, well, to give you one point, what the negotiation is between parents and children. And I think we discovered pretty quickly there was no negotiation. Once the cereal was in the house, the children knew it was in the house. They knew it was in the house from a very young age. So telling a child, for instance, that's 2 or 3 that it's a Saturday, Sunday doesn't figure with them. And then by the time you tell them when they're 4 or 5, it's too late. So some really interesting findings around consumption there. And the other particularly interesting one for me was around tech fast. So people were using breakfast, as you can see here, this lady with a phone, to catch up on their phone, to catch up on the weather, the traffic, what happened overnight, etc. So it was effectively, rather than looking at a traditional breakfast, Kellogg's realised that there was a relay going through the kitchen in most families, and it was how to make the most of that relay that happens in the morning in order to get out the house. So really, really fascinating and worthwhile study that we ended up doing for them. And HSBC, this was more interviews. So this was interviewing people across the world. We were given all the footage, and if you're a product manager, say for Apple Pay, you could go in and you could type in Apple Pay onto our platform and see what people in Vietnam thought about Apple Pay, say, as opposed to customers in Canada. So a quick overview of some of the things we've done. I think I'd like to kind of take a bit of a stop now and just see if there are some questions, if it's been understandable, if there's anything I've missed, anything I can help with. I'm very keen to help people, whether you use WeSeeThrough, want to talk about other platforms or ways of doing things. Very open to chatting about that in the next 10 minutes or so.
Okay, so we've got some questions coming through. One is, do you go through the video manually to find those moments? I think this person was talking about the static cameras, the serial moments. If you record the whole day, then do you have to go through the whole thing to find those key moments?
Yes. So the cameras are motion sensitive, so you don't get anything like 24 hours of footage. But you do, the best thing to do is go through them manually at about 2.5, 3 times speed to pick up the exact moments and kind of batch them up. And that's why I say that's the first piece of analysis that we offer, so that we hand back to the client both the serial and the non-serial moments. So in a study, someone might say to you, well, I want to know all the opportunities, all the snacking times where people are eating something, but it's not cereal. So you just have to get very quick at picking those up.
Okay, thank you. How have WeSeeThrough been getting on during the pandemic? Are people more or less likely to take part, and are clients more or less likely to commission work?
That's a brilliant question. So if I handle the last question, in March, I had 3 big projects cancelled or put on hold. So we were just beginning to move out of, and this is why I'm very keen to work with other people, because I think this methodology is underused, but a construction company had come to us to understand what put fixed cameras on construction sites, because the difference between what is in the instructions and what people do when they're on a building site, they know they don't read the instructions, and they wanted to see what was actually happening. And unfortunately, pieces of work like that were cancelled, and they are now beginning to pick up. There were lots of projects that came through for COVID-19. I think many people have found this. The problem is trying to pivot every week with the next new kind of thing that came up. So for instance, the Cabinet Office came to me and asked me to do some work on COVID-19 for them. And I kind of thought, I can't believe they're going to sign this off, and then they backed off. So I found it was quite challenging because people would have a brief and then it would go away again. But it's beginning to pick up now. What was fascinating in terms of the consumers is consumers have more time at home, of course, to do these studies properly. They're very keen to do them properly at the moment, because I think not so much for the money, but more that they're not rushing around quite as much. And the challenge now, I think when we were first started in April, we were thinking, what's a COVID change and when's it going to go back to normal? But it's become very apparent now. So one of my clients is looking at doing understanding screen time in the home. And it's very apparent now that there is going to be no back to normal. There has a change, a behavioural change has occurred, and trying to understand what that is and how to work it forward, I think it's going to be really important for brands that want to stay on top of this in terms of sales and growth.
Okay, thank you. How much do you need to incentivize people to carry a GoPro camera for, say, a week or a day?
Yeah, great question. If it's in home, I mean, it absolutely depends on what the task is. The minimum would be probably £30–40 for quite simple tasks. So perhaps two video recordings. What you have to be aware of is people are obviously tripping down to the post office to send it back, recorded delivery, and uploading the videos. They get quite frustrated when they come to upload it if their broadband isn't working, etc. So I just have to reassure them and say, look, it's fine, send it back to us. So anywhere between probably 40 and up to 100 is the max that we would pay for a GoPro study for clients. In terms of a fixed camera study, usually that would be usually £200 to £400, I would say, for someone to be in your life for 5 days. What I will say is we get a lot of notes on the back saying, really enjoyed doing the study. We get loads of life coaching from people. People talk us through their lives, which is brilliant. And loads of notes from people saying, thanks for being part of the study and can I be part of the next one?
Great. Okay. How do you go about filming in stores? I'm interested in learning about the permissions needed and what happens with the people who are incidentally filmed while doing their shopping, and from which we don't have specific consent to be filmed. Can you use that footage?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, it's dependent on the client and what you're doing and the country you're operating in. The example I gave you, we kind of went with the example of if you go to a ski resort, for instance, people will be wearing GoPros and you will be in their pictures whether you like it or not. In the studies that we do, in the Johnson & Johnson one, interestingly, we didn't really get any people don't get that close to people and on the chest camera, so we didn't get any identifiable shots of people going through, and we can automatically blur those people if they do come in. The question is whether the client is comfortable. If it goes to getting permissions, it becomes a whole different ball game. It is definitely more challenging, and there's definitely a question about whether people read that as they're going into the shop or not. So I know there was some publicity back in May where I think it was last not May just gone, but the May before, where the Daily Mail announced a kind of Big Brother-like society, and it referred to market research, which has really stopped things in this area. So I would say working it through on a bespoke basis with each client as to what you can and can't reasonably do. But in-store is at a bit of a halt at the moment, and it would be great if it started moving forward again. The other opportunity is around fixed cameras, so putting fixed cameras in store and having a note on the store as people walk in, letting them know that that's what you're doing, and then anonymising the data. But again, clients are quite reluctant to do that at the moment.
Okay. I mean, how visible is the chest strap?
It's really funny. It's not that visible, actually. I mean, well, the first time when I joined WeSeeThrough about 3 years ago, and my CTO said he was going to put a chest strap on and go to a bar and check it out, I was just absolutely horrified, and I refused to go to the bar with him. I'm not sure I would wear one into a bar, and there is a lot of people in the drinks trade that would like us to do this work, but I think it does impact your behaviour. And if you go out with friends and you've got a GoPro on and they know you're earning money from them drinking, it's a little bizarre. But actually, I have worn it. I did wear it for the shopper study to test it ahead of other people doing it, and it was really easy. Just isn't noticed by people. A lot of people wear GoPros on bikes and other for other reasons now. So really, no one was looking or challenging the fact that you're wearing one, or noticing. Actually, I don't think people really noticed.
Okay, 2 more so far. How do you decide how many participants are in a study?
Oh, that's another great question. The lowest number of participants we have in a study is 5 in a country, and that I was actually didn't think we'd get enough data, but we do get a lot of data from just 5 people, whether it's a laundry study, washing up, watching TV, and it goes up to anything probably around 2024. So in that case, I'd expect to be looking at, say, 4 segments with 6 people in each segment, something like that.
Okay, thank you. How does the audio get collated and analysed for the multilingual studies? For example, do you have skills within the team, or do you go elsewhere for translation?
So we use skills within the team, and we tend to not overwork the video. So we try and get the results around the insights as quickly as possible. So that may involve transcribing, translating at the same time, or having the person that's on the call, if you're a freelancer doing a study with us, you might want to be on that call as well, so you kind of talk it through immediately afterwards and get the results afterwards. But what's important is not to kind of transcribe and then translate and then tag the video. It's important to have one document with all the information in it. So we often use a Word document to say, this is a summary of participant A and all the tasks they've done and all the key moments, as well as using the video, so that you can kind of look at it very quickly, pick it up and say, these are the bits that I then want to put into a show reel.
Okay. How long are the videos stored for?
They can be stored for as long as you've got permission from the clients. I'd say that, interestingly, now we've got COVID-19, probably some of them will go out of date faster in some countries because behaviour is changing faster. But some of our studies, we have permission for 2 years, and I'd have actually said if we did have permission for longer, 3 or 4, the client would have still been able to use that data. I don't think the what people actually do would change that much in some of these instances over those 3-4 years. As I say, COVID-19 has kind of introduced a whole different ball game, because someone may have quite substantially changed their cleaning habits now.
Right. Okay. If you've got any other questions, type them quickly now. Otherwise, it looks like we've come to the end of questions. But Katie's kindly said if you've got further questions that you think about afterwards, you can email her. Okay, a couple more questions come through. Okay, how many projects have you done in West Africa?
We've done 2 or 3 projects in West Africa.
Okay.
We're not a massive amount. We're not a huge volume agency in terms of projects. So yes, a couple, 2 or 3. Okay,
great. And the last comment, which sums up what we all think, which is thank you so much. That was really, really good. So thank you, Katie. Agreed. Someone else has said thank you. They're coming through now, so that's lovely. Okay, so yes, thank you very much, Katie. Don't forget, everybody, that Katie's offering ICG members the discount. All the details are on the ICG website, and we'll get the recording up of this so you can listen back and share it amongst your friends and colleagues. We'll do that over the next few days. So thank you for attending. Thanks so much, Katie. That was great.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your questions, and I'm really happy to talk to you in the future. Hope to meet you all a bit more personally. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.